All right, hello and welcome to the Kaplan ACT Bootcamp. My name is Greg. Welcome all. Thanks for joining. I'm going to be your on-camera teacher over the next, an hour and a half. An hour and a half of time we have together to do an ACT boot camp. Now, the first thing I want you answering, and maybe even throwing in the chat if you'd like, is do you think we're going to cover every single question type, every single topic, every piece of outside content that we are going to see on test day? And I hope you're thinking, no, no, Greg, we got an hour and a half together. And it's called boot camp, right? This isn't called comprehensive, do every single thing that we're going to see on the test. No. What we're going to do instead is we're going to talk about the skills that you're going to need for the ACT. So we'll start off with an overview of it. We'll talk about the sections, we'll talk about the timing to get us rolling. And then after that, we're going to talk about some strategies and content. So no matter what the content is going to be, you're going to want to have an approach to it. And that's going to be that's what's going to be our focus tonight, is showing strategies on a couple sample questions and then showing you how you can use that same strategy on every question you'll see on test. So that's going to be our focus tonight, teaching you all how to fish, so to speak. As we get closer to the end, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about how to score higher, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. You can ask us whatever you want, because you got me here on camera, and then you probably already noticed in the chat we got a whole team. We got Michael, we got Sasha, we got Jane, we got Nicole, we got everyone. We've got tons of teachers here ready to answer any questions that you have. So that general QA will be designated for the end, but you're more than welcome to get any questions that you have in the chat for now, and we'll do our best to answer them. Now, please do note that our chat is a moderated chat, and we do this for a very intentional reason. We want to make sure the chat is not entirely distracting for those of you really focused. And we want to make sure people aren't spoiling an answer right away in the first half second, and so no one else can even think about it. So we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to reason through the problem. And in general, I want to keep this a nice positive place, right? It's a free session we're all coming to, so why not do our best to have a good time while learning some ACTs? All right, now let's take a look at our first item here. Why you need to train. Well, a low entrance exam score is absolutely a giant application killer. Now, I know myself, once upon a time, when I was trying to apply for college, I had a counselor who told me my dream school, she says, well, Greg, with your GPA, it's not possible. Says, it's just not going to happen. Well, one of the big things that we want to do is we want to say, you know what? Let's do our own research. Let's see what schools look at. And even though one of the top most important things that schools look at are your grades, well, that's part of it. Schools have trouble telling if your school is really, really tough at grading. It's hard to standardize across, everywhere, right? If we're competing against people, not just in our state, not just in our country, but the whole world. I have students all the time from all throughout the world who are applying to United States universities. They're taking this test, and admissions people are left trying to figure out, all right, how can I figure out who's going to be ready for our rigorous curriculum? So what the ACT does is gives them an opportunity to say, all right, at least we have this we can compare them to. And to me, in high school, I played a sport every season. I don't know if anyone who's in a sport right now, but I ran cross country in the fall, I wrestled in the winter, and I ran track in the spring. all while having a job and taking a pretty rigorous course, though. So that naturally didn't lead to the highest GPA. And so then ultimately, I was left with the ACT to help me get into my dream school, University of Michigan. Sorry if I have any Buckeye fans or Spartan fans here in the house. But that was a school I really, really wanted to go to. And I was fortunate enough to have two older brothers that told me, hey, we just applied and it really mattered. Put time into this and it can help save you. So that's what I did. Gosh, I put in about 5.5 weeks of I was like mad into studying for this test, trying to figure out all the little things like, oh, ACT English, they like it more concise. Ooh, I got to learn a little trig and a whole lot of geometry, refresh myself on that, and then get used to those science tables and graphs and learn how to read even faster. So yeah, there's tons of things that we can do. And I see a couple of us naming some sports. Lisa, cross country, awesome. Anyone that runs a 5K, my best time was in 18:01. That's okay. I wasn't setting any records, but I never got under 18. 18:01, I was so close. And for my mile, right on 5, never under a 5-minute mile. Maybe one day I'll give it another shot. All right, so with that, let's talk a little bit more about the test itself. For those of you that have already taken the real test or taken a practice test, I'm sure these numbers are second nature. You got these down. But I just want to take a moment and point out a couple things about the timing on the test. So first off, on our English section, 75 questions in 45 minutes. This is the most ambitious for time. 75 questions, that's a lot of questions to get done in a very short amount of time. But there's a whole bunch of questions that'll be really straightforward grammar questions. You can knock them out right away. But you'll also have some questions that essentially ask you comprehension questions. Where does something fit in? How does this transition? So we'll need to get a little bit more context for this. So one big thing I want you all to take from this. You're going to have 75 questions that are grouped into 5 passages with 15 questions each. So the most important thing I want you all to remember, 9 minutes per passage. If you are doing any ACT practice anywhere, you got a practice book, you decide to work with Kaplan or someone else, that's fine down the road. I want you to be thinking this, 9 minutes per passage. Time yourself. Get used to it. Don't spend 6 minutes per passage. There's a lot more you could have done within that time. And don't let yourself spend 12 to 15 minutes. There's going to be a whole bunch of easier questions down the road that you're not going to get. Now for math, I'm not going to insult you by doing 60 divided by 60. But what I will say is as you go deeper in the math section, in general, they get harder. So they get harder. Now, not every single question is going to be harder than the next, but we should use that to our advantage. We should make sure that we're getting those earlier questions right. We should not be rushing to get to later questions that maybe for some of us, we're not awesome at. Maybe you struggle at trig or some of the more advanced math topics. Don't even worry about those then. Guess on them, do your best, but really spend the time on the earlier ones, the ones that you can handle. Now, reading and timing, this is probably the thing I talk to my students the most about. This is perhaps the most aggressive section for timing. You have 4 passages in 35 minutes or 8:45 to read. Plus, you know what? Not just read it. How about doing 10 questions? How about doing 10 questions along the way? So you really need some practice on how to get past reading how you normally read. So we're not going to just take our time. We're not going to sit back. We're not going to prop our feet up. No, we're going to be aggressive. We're going to be reading for main ideas. We're going to be looking for opportunities to put on our jetpacks and fly through some details. And again, how's this going to happen? With practice. All right, next up, our science section. You'll see the exact same numbers. 35 minutes, 40 questions, broken up over 6 passages. So about a minute per question. The one thing I want to point out on these, it's all about the tables and the graphs and understanding them. Very little about outside content. Almost all just about how to interpret this stuff. And then beyond that, there's some questions that'll ask you to think like a scientist, some scientific reasoning questions. So those are definitely ones you want to get practice with as well, because those are more about why they did it, and the answer is not found anywhere on the page at all. All right. Now, I got a question coming a couple times from, or I saw it from Grace, saw it for Shannon, about the SAT. And if I'm prepping for both, like, is it going to help me to do one and the other? The big thing to remember between the ACT and the SAT is that there's a lot of similarities, but there's a lot of differences. Know which test better fits your strengths on the differences. So one big difference, I'm going to put a little star by this difference, is the geometry. On the ACT, the geometry makes up a much larger portion, anywhere from a third to a half of the questions. On the SAT, it's only about 10% of the math. That might be a reason why you pick one test over the other. SAT has a no calculator section. That might be a reason you might not pick it, or if you excel at those, that might be a reason to pick it. And then the science section, I'm going to throw one more star down here. Science on the ACT, not on the SAT. So again, if you're trying to decide, and you're like, ooh, this science stuff looks completely impossible for me, maybe the SAT is your test. But if you love it, if you're particularly strong at it, then this is definitely a great reason to do it. All right, and one last thing, and this is a question I get probably the most when I do these presentations, is are we going to talk about the essay? I got all these essay questions. Can you answer them? And guess what? I'm going to be a little mean here. No, we shouldn't. And there's one really important reason why I'm not going to. We shouldn't. And if you have a tough schedule, right? You got a busy schedule and you're trying to figure out where to invest your time. This word right here, optional, helps tell me, wait a second, right? This should be the bottom of my priority list. It doesn't go into my score that's out of 36. Completely separate score. I don't even have to take it. Maybe like half of the colleges you apply to don't care, don't want it. And even the ones that do want it, do not put a ton of weight into it. So if you are a person who's tight on time, oh my gosh, that should be the bottom of your priority list. Once you got all these other things knocked out, all right, then come talk to me. And I'll be glad to give you some more tips at that time. But we have an hour and a half of time. So what I want us to do is to dive in a little bit deeper and talk about scores. Now, when I ask students, what is your goal for the ACT? A lot of times I'll hear 36. And I never want to be a person that says, you know what, don't shoot for the stars. But here's something I think that's a little bit better to think about. What schools do you want to go to? Myself, I was in Michigan, University of Michigan was a pretty nice school in my state. That's where I wanted to go. I talked to another student who wanted to go to University of Texas. Another student who wanted to go to just somewhere out in California. So my best recommendation is to go online, look up the schools that hold some interest to you, and find their ACT scores, their average ACT score. And once you have that, now you have a goal. So if the school you're looking at, their average ACT score is a 24, well, I'm going to tell you, it's silly to be shooting for a 36, right? Shoot for something that'll make you really competitive for that school. Now, beyond that, you might even surprise yourself. You might say, ooh, I'm getting pretty good at this. Maybe that'll expand then the list of schools that you are considering. And then all of a sudden, maybe some scholarships might be available as well if you're at the high end of that school's range. So I had a student I worked with, and this might sound painful, everyone. I worked with him after graduation. He had graduated from high school. He already got into the college he wanted to go to. But if he got a 30 instead of the 28 or 29 he was at, he was going to get 10,000 a year. He was going to get 10,000 a year from this honor school. So he brought himself back to study the summer after graduating, and he got that score. And he got a lot of money. So that's something, just depending where you are in your studies, that you can still take this test. You can still take it pretty deep into your educational career. All right. Now, a couple other things I want to talk about on this page here. Now, as we look back here, we said, all right, the 50th percentile, that's, as many people get above as below it. And that's a useful starting point, but let's look at some scores and where this fits for percentile. The 90th percentile is definitely a great goal. So when someone asks me what's a good score, really general, it's hard to answer that. A good score is the one that'll get you in the school you want to go. But if you're looking to start like really competitive schools, this is the place. The 28 or the 90th percentile. So again, the really competitive schools, that's about your minimum threshold. But again, right, there's a lot of schools that are still below this. And if those are the schools you're looking for, great, shoot for that, work for that for sure. All right, let's talk just a little bit more about score interpretation. So take a look at the percentiles based on the different tests and how that matches up to the scaled score. So for example, if you got a 25 on the English, you'd be in the 79th percentile. While the science, that one's a bit higher. All right. Now, I don't want us to get lost in the morass of this. Just introduce yourself to it. Say, all right, I see how this works. I see how this works, right? I get a score. The higher the score goes up by percentile. I don't need close to a 36, right? This is 11 points away from a 36, and I'm already in the top quarter. Pretty good spot to be for sure. All right. Well, with that, I know a lot of you are like, you know what, Grad? Good to know, but I want to do some problems. I want to talk a little bit about strategies. I want to talk about the 4 sections that count. Well, let's do it. Let's do it. So we're going to talk about the 4 sections in the following order. We're going to talk about English. Then we'll go ahead and talk about math, maybe science, maybe reading. And we're going to do it in the following order: English, math, reading, science. Does anyone know why we're doing it in that order? Is it just random? Is it alphabetical? And it is alphabetical. It does happen to be alphabetical. All right, that's the order we're going to see it on the test. So English, then math come up first, and that's actually going to be the bulk of the scored part of the test. It's going to be an hour and 45 minutes. You're going to get a break, and then you only have an hour and 10 minutes afterwards for scored portions of the test. So again, my little line here just tells us these 2 are together, then we'll get our break, then we'll have these 2 before we start the unscored part of the test, or the optional part, the part that doesn't go into our out of 36. That's when we'll start the writing. All right, so with that, let's dive in and let's take a look at our first item here, the Kaplan method for ACT English. Now, here's what I don't want you to do. Here's perhaps what I find to be the worst approach for English if you want a really high score. Let me ask, does anybody at all simply use this, your ear? Does it sound good? Does it sound good? Now, I would tell you that this test wouldn't be bad if everyone spoke perfectly, if everyone wrote perfectly. I don't know if you have any friends that they mess up the theirs all the time, or they mess up something, or they just don't use punctuation. I have a friend who texts me and uses no punctuation, no capitalization at all. So if you use your ear test, that'll help you get some right. That'll help you get maybe the easiest questions right. But what'll hold you back from is maybe pieces of punctuation that you're not entirely familiar with, or things that you constantly hear wrong, things that are wrong a lot. Let me give you an example here. If I say, if a student is late for class, they should check in up front. If a student is late for class, they should check in up front. And if I'm using my ear test and I'm thinking all right, yeah, students late for class, right? Like any student that happens to come in. So that means all students. Yeah, sure, they should check in up front. That makes sense. Yeah, cool. Hold on. What is our trap here? Well, our trap here is that a student is actually singular, right? And even though that A student represents every student out there, we're still talking about one at a time. So that A student needs to match up over here then with like his or her desk or like one. It should be singular. And it is a trap here, right? Because, and I like how the hall said, and I was like, Greg, I'm pretty sure it should be the he or she. And here's another reason why maybe you wouldn't instinctively go to he or she. You might not type he or she. I don't, gosh, I don't know if I've ever written in an email, a paper, anything where I used he or she. I don't think I've ever done that. So the problem is if it's something that we haven't done a lot before, we might not use it. Such as a colon. You might not use a colon a lot. So when a colon is actually the right thing, you might be like, no, because I don't use it. So let's talk about our first step. How can we use this to our advantage? Well, as we read the passage, instead of using our ear test, what we want to do is identify precisely the issue being tested. I'll give this a nice big box. What's the issue? Subject-verb agreement. Punctuation. Is it a style issue? You have to identify exactly what it is. Then we're going to process through and say, all right, what is the appropriate thing to do here? So for example, if I was reading this sentence below and this part was underlined, I would say, okay, they is underlined. My issue here then is proper antecedent. What does it match up to? Then I'll have to maybe remember, all right, how do I find out what it matches? Okay, I got to look earlier in the sentence and figure out if it's singular or plural. And then naturally, my second step, I'm going to knock out any choices that don't fix that issue. And then ultimately, my right answer should fit three criteria. It should be grammatically correct, but you could have multiple grammatically correct answers. You could have two or three that are grammatically correct. You go to your next test if it's grammatically correct. You'll say, okay, is it the most concise grammatically correct one? And then finally, is it still relevant? Is it still on topic? Does it fit right here? So the most important pieces that we can use, we're not going to look at every issue potentially out there, but it's to go through this process. What are they testing me on? How do I fix it? And does it still fit these criteria, these three criteria, right? Grammatically correct, the shortest grammatically correct one that's still on topic. So with that, let's talk about one of the trickiest ones. That really should be straightforward, subject agreement. He likes to run. The apple tastes delicious. Multiple apples taste delicious. Now, those are pretty straightforward, though. What you're going to see on test is something like this. The chair with the cabriolet legs is an antique. And you might be saying, like, wait a sec, legs? That's plural. I should have an R. But I'm hoping a lot of us saw, like, wait a second, Greg. No, 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 no. It was actually the chair. And you're going to see something just like that on test day. Let me give us just one more example. I don't know if I have any fans of football. But if I said the League of 32 teams, we haven't talked about NFL, help me out, everybody. Pop up in just a second here. Is it the League of 32 teams make or makes a lot of money? This League of 32 teams make or makes a lot of money? Wait a sec. This is the same thing that we just saw. My subject is a collective noun. It's the league. The league contains all these teams. So if I'm saying league, oh, the league makes a lot of money. Ah, so it should be makes instead of make. Teams make money. A league makes money. So one great thing you can do on test day, as soon as you see that prepositional phrase start with an of, an at, an on, a with, is you're going to wipe it out until you see your verb. Get rid of all that information. Get rid of with the cabriolet legs. Get rid of 32 teams. change it to the chair is an antique. The league makes a lot of money, and you're going to be ready to rock. So again, subject verb agreement. Do the legwork. Go back and ask yourself, what is my actual subject? All right, let's grab one more topic before we try out a couple questions. Pronoun antecedent agreement. We saw it a moment ago with my students being late. Look at this bottom one again. If a traveler is lost. Now, if someone had said this to me and said, Greg, if a traveler is lost, they should ask for directions. If I heard that out loud instead of the he or she, I would completely understand them. I would probably even follow it better proficiently than with the he or she. Because I would be thinking, yeah, like any traveler, all travelers. But we have to be strict. It was a traveler that's mentioned, so we need to keep it singular. The example above, if I have rain, rain is a singular subject. So it should be an it. It should be an it. It should not be a they. All right. Now that we've gotten a little bit of practice with some English, let's try out some questions. Now, taking a look at question one before you don't let your brain go any further to your listeners. We have a poll that is now open. Jane is going to be opening a poll. Please vote in the poll. If you put an answer into the chat, green light Chris is going to give it the red light. He's going to give it the stop sign. He's not going to put it through. So if you're like, I voted A, why do I not see it in the chat? Because we want everyone to think about this. We want everyone to take the time. We don't want to spoil it for anyone. All right. So the poll's open. Get those votes in and feel free to follow along and still answer me as we go. Here's my question for you. What is lacking? Question one. What is lacking? Is it the music or is it the lyrics? What is lacking? The music or the lyrics? Let's see. Lyrics is right next to it, so it should be lyrics are, right? No, right? It should be music. Music, oh, without lyrics just explains my music. I got it. So, if it's music, my right answer should absolutely be choice C. The music is lacking. And again, you can write on your book on test day. Write on it. Cross this out and say it to yourself. Oh, okay, they feel that music is lacking emotion. Just, yes, that sounds perfect. That sounds perfect. All right, great job, everybody. I saw tons of right answers coming in. So let me give ourselves our first flat gold star of the night. Nice work on that. Put that as another thing in your bank that you got down. Subject verb agreement. We're going to watch out to make sure we have the actual subject. All right, let's try out another English question. Let's take a look at question 2. Again, vote in the poll. Who was the music for? Or who was it not for? Who was the music not for? Who was the music not for? Well, let's look. For many years. Oh, I was among those. That's it right there. Perfect. So, but if it's those, well, gosh, that's plural, right? That's plural. I need to find a plural match. And as I'm taking a look at my choices, oh my gosh, I only see one that's plural here. I'll knock out choice F because that does not work. Choose choice G and move on. Boom. All right. Keep those questions coming in if you got them. We're going to try out one more English question before I wrap us up and give you some homework to do. Take a look at question 3. Here's the one time. I'll let you use your ear test. So I saw Lisa earlier saying uses her ear. This is our one time where we can use it, where I'll give you express permission. LY versus not LY. Does it make sense if I say a free performance usual scheduled twice a week? No, that sounds atrocious. That sounds awful. Awful. All right, let's take a look at choice C. Usually, nearly without exception. Oh my gosh, that sounds great, right, everyone? Let's pick choice C and move on. All right, let's see what I got on my agenda for us to do next. Wait a second. What's wrong, everyone? What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Let's see. Why is choice C actually not my right answer? It's grammatically correct. The usually works. What is not working here? Why would this not be credited as a right answer on test day? Too big. I like that. Too big. Too long. If something is usual, that is literally nearly without exception. There's too much detail. It's redundant. Absolutely perfect. So our correct answer, the nice, easy, concise way of doing this, pick choice D and move on. I saw lots of great answers coming in from Robin, Suchi, Shannon, Paige, Ben. Excellent, excellent work. All right, let me give you one last example for stylistic redundancy. If I say each year, my town hosts its annual parade. What's wrong here? Each year, my town hosts its annual parade. What is wrong here? Let me think about this. Wait a second, are you guys seeing this? Oh my gosh. Each year and annual mean the same thing. Of course they do. Of course they do. So what we do is just say each year my town hosts a parade, or my town hosts an annual parade. Exactly. Great. Celine, yeah, perfect. Okay, so we got that. We got that knocked out. Now let me give you a new example. Let me give you a new example here with kind of the same facts, but a new example. Take a look at my first two items here. Each year, my town hosts a colorful parade. So imagine that was what was written. Should I change that? What do you guys think? Should I change it to this? Is that a good idea? Should I change it? Should I make it more concise? Does my conciseness work on this problem? So I should change it from each year my town hosts a colorful parade to each year my town hosts a parade. I made it shorter, right? Made it shorter. Made it shorter. Well, if that's the rule we're keeping in our head for making it shorter, there's just a slight misinterpretation. We want to make it shorter if it's redundant. So redundancy would be each year and annual. But what did we take out here? Colorful. Oh, I see it. Chris, Kaylani, Celine, Ethan, Scoochie got it. Yes, there we go. This detail actually is useful. What we removed in that new example was something that told us more about it. So it wasn't redundant. It was helpful detail. So that is something you will need to watch out for on test day. But sometimes you get in this rhythm shorter, and then you'll miss something like this. It'll sneak up on you. You're like, oh, I know this. Why am I getting it wrong? You got to remember this. All right. So that's going to wrap us up for English. Still got a lot more to come. But what I want you to take from this is this approach. Identify the issue. Make sure you're following our test, grammatically correct, concise, still on topic, while watching out for the little tricks along the way. Definitely take the time to go back, review punctuation, subject-verb agreement, and get some practice on some of the longer questions you'll see in the ACT English section. And really what helps you practice for those is practicing the reading section. All right, with that, we are going to turn to math. So let's talk a little bit about our Kaplan method for the ACT math section. Our first step, which is so vital in the ACT math section, what is the question? And what I always like to say, where do we go for that? The end. The ACT is known for longer word problems, a lot longer than you're probably used to in the time that you're given. So what we want to do is really focus in, especially if it's a long word problem, at the very end. What does the question want me to do? Once you know what they want you to do, you're going to say, all right, well, what do they give me? What do they give me? Numbers, variables, all right? After I've asked, all right, what do they want? What do they give me? I'm going to say, what's the best approach? Is it going to be straightforward math? Picking some numbers for variables? Strategic elimination? Plugging in the values from the answer choices? There are a lot of strategies. So I know a lot of us in here, probably like Greg, I'm pretty good at the straightforward math. I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be a lot of questions where this is not the fastest way. So the one thing I want us to ask ourselves, is this the most efficient path? As you do practice, doing more and more realistic ACT problems, is this the most efficient path? You can get so much faster in the ACT math section by using multiple approaches. And then our very last step is to make sure we answered exactly what they asked. And one great way to do this is to watch out for something that the ACT will do. They might give you a math problem, for example, with 3 variables, an x, a y, and a z. And in that problem, they might ask you, what's x? Or they could ask you what's y? Or they could ask you, oh yeah, x plus y, x minus z. They could ask you for any combination of those variables. I always recommend you ever have more than one variable, or you have something untraditional that they're asking you for, circle it, star it, put a skull and crossbones by it. Force yourself to go back and say, wait a sec, did I solve for the right thing? Because we do not want that happening on test day. This test is hard enough already without doing it. All right, so what we're going to take a preview at is the geometry. The geometry is perhaps the biggest single topic you're going to see on the ACT math section. So some tests will be just a little bit more algebra, but more tests than not, more algebra, more geometry. Geometry is king. Now, it doesn't mean 90% of the questions, but maybe like a third, and the other sections are like a fifth and a sixth and a seventh, something like that. So it is essential for us to have down the rules for geometry by time test day rolls around. Because unlike the SAT, ACT does not give you formulas unless it's some really like strange one they're not expecting a lot of people to know. So we have to know rules, we have to know formulas, and we have to know how to work these problems. So, and I think recently, gosh, the ellipse formula was on the most recent ACT just a week or so back. Was it a week? Just a couple days ago, I think. The ellipse formula. So if you're thinking you got it by having just a little bit down some of these angles, no, you have to go beyond that. You have to have angles. You have to have SOHCAHTOA depth. You have to have the circle formula. You have to have ellipses if you want a really, really competitive score in the ACT math. So let's just start off by shaking some of the rust off for geometry, and then know that I'm going to leave you with a lot more homework to do to continue to improve and refresh this stuff from the back burner. So taking a look at our angles here. So an acute one less than 90, right 190, obtuse between 90 and 180, straight line equals 180, and if I go all the way around a circle, that's going to equal 360. So you won't necessarily get a problem that's this straightforward, but these will make up pieces of the problem, and you have to have this just down cold. You don't have time to like think and go back and really kind of link around these. No, you have to have that down right away. Even something like this, if you cut a 90-degree angle, cut right through. Oh yeah, those are complementary. So they add up to 90. That might be kind of hidden in a figure, and you got to reason through and find that. If you have a straight line, the angles that make it up are going to be called supplementary. So again, we might not get asked the definition per se, but we have to know how to work with it. That's the most important about the geometry problems we'll see on the ACT. So take a look at this right here. If we have two parallel lines cut by a transverse, so just a line going through, there's a couple things that we can just instantly grab, that we need to instantly grab from something like this. So I like to do something just really kind of fun with this, or I think it's fun at least. I'm a little bit of an ACT, or maybe a big ACT, but that's okay. So I like to say there's an A team and a B team. And everyone on the A team has the same angle measure. Throw it in the chat, everybody. Who's on the A team? Who has the same angle measure as angle A? Let's see, across from it is D, and then E is in the same corresponding position, and then H is vertical from it. So the A team consists of A, D, E, and H. And then the B team, same angle as B. So we start off with B. We're like, all right, vertical across from it, C, yep. And then corresponding, yep, I see F, and then across from F is G. Cool. All right, so those four make up our B team. And what I can tell you right now is we don't know their precise angle measure. We can tell from looking at the A team's obtuse and the C team's acute. But what I can tell is if you take any single angle from the A team and any single angle from the B team, what do we get, everybody? What does that add up to? If I take any single angle from the A and any single angle from the B. Nice work by Ben, Andrew, Taylor, Ethan, all nailing this. Great work. So if I take any single one from the A team, add it with any single one from the B team, oh yeah, I'm going to get 180. And again, if you got this right, give yourself a small pat on the back. If you got this right in like a millisecond, be like, all right, now I'm ready. So if you got this down cold, you are ready for test day for this topic. If you did it, if it took you some extra thinking, make some flashcards, keep developing these types of skills. All right, so with that, let's take a look at a question. This should be a 3-second question. This should be a 3-second question. This question would be like -2 in the ACT math section. Because we'd look at it, we'd say straight line, 180. 20 plus 40 is 60. Okay, cool. All right, I got it then. 60 minus 180 is 120. Choice D is my answer. And I know some of you might have been like, Greg, that was kind of fast. That's how fast we need to be on testing. Every single one of us needs to look at this, a straight line, 180. I got one missing piece, so I'm going to subtract my 40 and my 20 from 180. Cool. Now, if this was not -2, if this was a little bit deeper in the test, let me show you what that would look like. Instead of getting these numbers alone, let me just cross it out a little bit. Let's just say they gave me 30 over here. And they gave me X, and they gave me 2X. Help me out, everybody. How would I go about solving, and we're still going to solve for angle D, B, E. And I'm just going to change just a couple answer choices here. So I want to change this one to 50. And I want to change this bottom one to 150. We're going to try it now again. Give me the equation that I would use to solve this problem. So I've added a little twist. I moved this from -2 to at least a number greater than 0. Maybe this would be around 20 or so. What equation would I use to put this together? I'd still use the same one. They're supplementary. They're going to add up to 180. So what I would do is I would grab my 30. I would grab my 2x. I would grab my x, add them all together, and set it equal to 180. From there, we're going to solve for x. I go, okay, 30 plus 3x equals 180. Take it another step forward. 3x equals 180 minus 30, which is 150. Divide by 3, x equals 50. Boom. All right, everybody. We got it, don't we? It's choice A, it's 50. Wait a second. Wait a second, wait a second, wait a second. What did I say we were solving for? DB. DBE. And what is DBE, everyone? It's 2x. Oh, of course. So then x equals 50, 2x equals 100. My correct answer would actually be choice C. So this question right here, this little modification I threw at us, and especially that last little step there with the 2x, is something I mentioned in the last step of our Kaplan method here. Did you solve for the right question? What was the right question? It was that angle. What did that angle represent? That angle represented DB. All right, keep getting those questions in. Let us know what else we can do to help. I'm just trying to give us a couple twists so we see, some variations that we're definitely going to get on test. All right, let's try out another sample problem or two. This one right here tells us EF and G are parallel lines cut by transversal H, is shown here. What is the value of A plus C? Let me give you 30 seconds. Take 30 seconds to try to solve this. I'll have a sip of my Gatorade Frost. Alrighty, everybody. Let's think back to what we said about like the A team and the B team. Well, what we can tell is A and B are both obtuse. So A and B are both obtuse. Okay, so I got 2 obtuse so far, A and B. And then I could say, oh, well, C and D are both acute. So what happens, everybody? If I took 1 obtuse plus 1 acute, I'd get 180. And if I took another obtuse plus another acute, I got another 180. Boom! I get 360. There we go, everybody. We got our right answer. Choice 8. Now, if you were tempted by choice K because you didn't see any angle measure, definitely you need to go back and refresh yourself. When we have parallel lines cutting through with transversals, what we can do is find pairs that add up to 1. All right, everybody, great job on this question right here. Let's try another math question. Question number 3. In the figure below here, line T crosses parallel lines M and N. What is the degree measure of angle X? What do we got here? Oh, 40 is what? 40 is an acute one. These are parallel. Angle X is an obtuse. Let me write that nearby. This is my acute one, less than 90. This is my obtuse one, between 90 and 180. And we got parallel lines cutting. Oh my gosh. Those two are going to add up to 180. Take your 40 plus your X, set it equal to 180, and we're ready to rock and roll. Solve for X, X equals 140. Boom. And we're done. Confidently circle choice E, and let's move on. So again, it is vital to get this stuff down because sometimes you'll see problems like this with just a whole lot more text before this. We really have to break it down just into the smallest component parts to be able to efficiently answer. All right, let's take a look at one last math question. You know what? Let's put a full minute on the timer. So we're going to give you 1 minute to try out this question, and then we'll take a moment to review it. Good luck and dive in. All right, let's take a look at this problem. But before we do, I'm just going to address a quick question that came in the chat. Are all math problems on the ACT this simple? And I'm not sure if you missed this earlier on. I'm more than happy to repeat this. We are not doing a sampling of all questions, but we're not taking like the hardest question or the easiest question or even the middle question. We have just picked a few different topics. So in English, we took a look at subject-verb agreement. In math, we're taking a look at a couple geometry problems. We're also going to take a look at some reading and science problems. And these are just problems where we can talk a little bit about the approach and talk a little bit about some of the types of questions that we're going to see on testing. All right, so let's dive into this question right here and help me out, everybody. What do I probably want to do on this question? What do I probably want to do on this one? Well, I don't know if you're like me, but I started drawing this out like immediately. Suppose PQ is perpendicular to RS. Okay, and then Q's a point on there, perfect. So let's draw that on there, right? Let's throw that right on there. So I'm going to put Q on RS. I'm going to make it perpendicular so it's coming straight up and down. Okay, cool. All right. Now they're asking me, what could be the measure of LQR? Now, going to Andrew's points, are all math problems as simple? Take a look at the poll, everyone. Does the poll make this look simple? I mean, and it could be simple for you. If so, you're awesome. You're amazing. Good job. But I'm taking a look at the poll. It does not look like it's simple. It looks like something we're going to see on test day, which is they're going to throw a twist at us. And we're going to have to be able to reason way through this. Let's do it. Where's L here? It's the interior of PQS. Oh my gosh. Let's throw it over here somewhere. Now what are they asking me for? LQR. Oh my gosh, everybody. Why is it 110? Well, what does this angle look like when I draw this in? It's going to kind of look like this, right? LQR. It's greater than 90. Now, I want us to use some reasoning. Imagine I was a person who was stuck on this problem. I wasn't quite sure. Why could I eliminate H, J, and K in a heartbeat? Why could I eliminate all three of those in a heartbeat? Oh, because it says what could it be? And all three of those are acute. And given that they give me no other information, it's going to be obtuse, 90, or acute. If I have three acutes, I couldn't choose between them. If it was three obtuses, I couldn't choose between them. So you could instantly draw those out. Instantly throw those out. Cross them out. Cross them out. All right. So let us know if you have any questions. As expert Michael says, when in doubt, draw it out. Nice little rhyme there as well. All right. So again, that wraps us up with math. What did we cover? We did not cover a sample problem of every topic. There's 60 questions on the map, right? We just covered a couple of the type you'll see in the geometry section. So I talked a little bit also, right, about like one would be a negative two. Then I showed us some more representative, but we'll see a little bit deeper in the test. As you get to more complicated geometry, you're going to see figures within figures. You might have to figure out how an angle with the similar endpoints drawn off the center versus one drawn off the edge relate to each other. Those are the kind of rules we need to keep developing. But with that, we still got a lot of tasks to talk about. So let's do that. Let's turn to the reading section. Now, perhaps the most important thing you are thinking for reading is, Greg, how do I speed up? How do I get faster? Maybe beyond that, you're like, how do I not get bored? I find these passages boring. And if you're a person who doesn't find them boring, maybe you find them too interesting and you need to speed up. So our most important tip is to be active. Now, you probably notice we say taking notes, and I like that that's after a comma, that it's saying essentially what we're suggesting. But I have a lot of students who I've worked with who take very sparing notes, and they read really actively. So the one thing that we'll recommend as you're reading through is you need to find the best way for you to stay involved, to avoid getting bored, to avoid getting bogged down in the details, bogged down in difficult language. Sometimes that could be to take a bunch of notes for each paragraph. Sometimes it's like write a word for each paragraph. Sometimes it's find like the most important word from a paragraph. I've seen a lot of students have success with that. But I'll tell you one way that I've not seen a lot of success. And that is my folks who come in as very, very prodigious underliners. That means like they do it a lot. They just underline like everything. And what I've seen is when I see their tests is that there's very little that's not underlined. And when we do that, it's hard to actually find out what's important. Or you might start underlining a lot at the beginning of a paragraph, and you're like, all right, I probably got to stop now. Then you leave out some important stuff. Or you get deeper in a paragraph, and you're like, wait a second, this stuff's actually not important. If I go back and erase it, then that turns into a big mess. So what we recommend, no matter what, active reading means doing the following. Asking about the big idea. Why is this being written? What does the author want me to remember? And what I love to say is you gotta treat it like an outline. Take this essay out of essay form and bring it back. Bring it back to when this author was thinking about what they were going to write, and they put it down to an outline. For each paragraph, what was their note? Like, what were they going to say for the thesis and the intro? What was like the topic they wanted to talk about, and what did they want to talk about for sure? That's what we need to remember. The little details along the way, no way. We cannot slow down and memorize those. No way. And if you're a person who's like, Greg, I was just thinking, should I read the questions first? I've heard that's good. I would say go ahead and do that if there were less than 10 questions. Like 2 or 3, I think you could easily remember those and find those. But 10 is a whole lot of things to remember as you're trying to understand some dense paragraphs. Now, if you are running out of time, you got like 3 minutes left, sure, maybe you'll do the questions first and knock those out. But definitely, that can really distract us. Find the main point and can end up taking even longer. So with all of that said, let's talk about a couple question types that we'll see a lot on testing. One of them is detail. Detail is the kind of question where they ask you something about straight from the passage. As we're reading, our goal is not to answer these from memory, but to help us find where it's located. What's the location? So our map should be really broad and say, like, this thing was generally talked about in this paragraph and maybe a little on tone. So what we don't want to do is have a question without a line number and we go back and we're just searching and we're 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 searching. All right. Now, what we want to do instead. Use that map. All right. Now, as we take a look at a couple different, wordings, how do we know we have a detailed question? One of the clues is there'll be a line number, but a lot of times it's not just that. It needs to be categorical information. It needs to say, according to, the author states, the passage makes clear. All right, now with that, let's keep rolling along. Let's take a look at a little passage. Ooh, what kind of passage do we have? What kind of passage do we have? What are we looking at? Ooh, we're looking at one of those science passages. We're looking at the kind of passage where you're going to get to maybe 25, 30 minutes in the reading section. You're a little maybe exhausted. You're having trouble focus. You've been taking the ACT for 3 hours. You're like, oh my gosh. It is so important on the science passage to map this out effectively. To not read it and essentially get nothing from it. That's one option sometimes if we're trying to go too fast. Or to read it so slow that we're running out of time for the question. So what we want to do then, we want to focus on big ideas. I know what we should do for the first paragraph every single time. We should ask ourselves, why did they write this passage? What was so important about this thing that they chose to write about? Let's take a look. The quasar 3C273 lies about 1/5 of the way from Earth to the edge of the known universe. Stop. I'm pretty sure I know what they're going to talk about. This quasar 3C273. So now my mind's going, okay, what they're talking about. Why? Why is this thing actually important? Let's take a peek. Of all the objects in the cosmos, only a few other quasars surpass the energy and activity of 3C273. Oh, of all the objects? Okay, that's everything? Only a few surpass this. Oh my gosh. That's probably why it's pretty important. On an average day, it's more luminous than 1,000 galaxies, each containing 100. Okay, that's pretty luminous. That's pretty luminous. That seems to be an important feature of it. During one remarkable day in February 1988, the quasar erupted with a burst of radiation equivalent to lighting up the stars the size of our sun by 10 million per second. Oh my gosh. I don't need to memorize exactly what happened, but what I need to remember. This quasar, it's very bright. It's very luminous. It has a lot of energy. That's what you want to get down from. As we continue on, let's take a peek here. What's important from this paragraph? By monitoring 3C273 in all domains of electromagnetic spectrum by observing variations in its luminosity, astronomers have begun to understand quasars and the physical processes that power them. So what you might do is you say, all right, that's just like one sentence. I probably don't want to take like a whole note on that. But what if I just do this? So they've understood that. And again, for that first paragraph, you might say, all right, this quasar seems to be really important. And then you might like scream to yourself off to the side, it's bright. It's bright. All right, let's keep rolling along. Since quasars were first identified some 20 years ago, astronomers have come to realize that quasars are the core of extremely active galaxies. They're unmatched in luminosity and hence the most distant objects that can be detected. That seems pretty important as well. Let's keep rolling along. One of the most important. This might be important coming up. Discoveries about quasars is that their luminosity can vary greatly over periods of less than a year. This variability, oh my gosh, they repeated something. That might be pretty important to us. Let's grab that as well. This variability led investigators to the conclusion that the tremendous energy of quasars radiated from a region many times smaller than the cores of ordinary galaxies. Right, so this variability tells them something else. The variability tells them, don't necessarily remember it, but just say, all right, there's a question about variability. I'm going to come back here. All right, let's look at our next paragraph here. Quasars are powered by the gravitational energy that is released as dust. There's gas and dust fall toward the quasar's massive density. That sounds like some tough science stuff. I might not quite remember. Okay, maybe it's about how it's powered. Maybe I'll circle that. All right. some of this energy, okay, I'm on the right track because it's still talking about energy, good. Some of this energy channels particles in the beams, blasting material out into the host galaxy at speeds close to that of light. Most of this energy, okay, so they're still talking about energy. Maybe I'll go back and say, all right, so it still seems about energy, I'll circle that. Most of this energy is converted to radiation by a wide range of physical processes, probably occurring at different distances from the sun. Oh my gosh. If you're ever reading a science passage and you feel your eyes completely glazing over, these are words you have to grab. Transition words, and especially contrast. So no matter how little you understand this, you can still figure out from that contrast word that we have opposite things. Above, they're talking about all this stuff about energy. Below what? Let's see. Yet quasars exhibit many phenomena that cannot be explained. They remain among the most enigmatic objects. So if you're like maybe Grace, this is making like no sense. Grace, focus on the words you do know. Focus on the transition. And you might even see a word like enigmatic. This is a great opportunity where I would avoid underlining. Imagine I just like underlined all this stuff. And I'm glad my underline kind of hit the word a little, but sometimes that happens when we're underlining. Makes it harder to read. Because I might look at that and be like, wait a sec, what did enigmatic mean again? When in fact, if I looked at the early part of it, it said they cannot be explained. Oh, maybe a note would be good here. If they cannot be explained, maybe like they're a little bit confusing or mysterious, something like that. That to me is going to be something I can go back to and recall what it was talking about much more easily than if I had just underlined enigmatic. Okay, cool. So let's do a little bit of recap. What did we do here? We said, all right, we got this science passage is pretty confusing. We put it in simpler terms for ourselves. We said, why is this quasar important? What does it do? What does each paragraph talk about? We're ready to go. All right, let's take a look at our first question here. So question number 1 says, according to the passage, quasars remain a mystery to scientists due to. Now, we got a detailed question. According to the passage tells us that, but we don't have any line numbers. This is where it's essential to think back to our map. Now, where were they talking about a mystery? Oh yeah, right, that was the phenomena that cannot be explained, right? We were just looking at that, right? We're just looking at that right over here. Enigma meant confusing, right? Means you couldn't quite figure it out. All right. So let's look at our choices. And again, everyone, feel free to vote in the poll at any point. Where does it match that? Where does it match that? Say, oh, of course. Choice C, unexplained phenomena that they exist. That's awesome. Right here. The hard part for test day, everyone, is finding this. Is having to go back and reread the whole passage, essentially. Because you know what? The passage did not say mystery. We have to figure it out. That's what they're telling us. That's what they're telling us. Now, I want to make sure I'm being crystal clear on something. Jordan's saying, I feel like this will take too long. Now, Jordan, like virtually everything we're talking about, you have to slow down to speed up. We talked about this from our first English problem, right? That we have to think through what the actual issue is. Once we can, we're going to be flying. If you can, read a passage and say, hey, what are they talking about broadly? Guess what? Know what you're not going to do? You're not going to be going slow here. You're not going to be going slow here. You're going to say, all right, it's bright, done, next. As you take a look at this paragraph right here, you're not going to be going slow here, Jordan. I guarantee you, if you're not thinking like this, you're just totally missing the point. What we need to do for each paragraph, why is it added, topic, and tick? So Jordan, look at what I did on the screen here. I circled 2 words in the opening sentence. I boxed in 1 word below and I wrote a single word. That doesn't take a lot of time. And as you get practice with this, this is something that you can do virtually as you're reading. I know I was just reading it out loud. Things take longer when someone reads out loud, but you can do this virtually as now, again, this is something. This is a part of the test. I feel a lot of people come in with their own preconceptions about like, well, this is how. If you are a person who's not scoring like 30 or above, or you're struggling a little with timing, all I can tell you, Jordan, anyone else, is try it out. Try it out. Use the parts of it that work. Think about, am I reading for the right things? When I get done with a passage, do I actually have anything that's going to help me answer questions? If you don't, gotta go back to the drawing. All right, let's take a look at one last question. Question number 2. The passage states what? Passage states that what observation has helped astronomers understand quasars? Wait a second, where was that? That's from like the second paragraph, right? As we're looking back, what has helped them understand that? It is this part right here, around this paragraph. So I can say, all right, what are they doing here? All right, they're observing all domains of electromagnetic spectrum. All right, that's what I'm looking for. As I go to my choices, oh my gosh, choice F is my answer. Boom. Our map helps us figure out where we go back to, even though it doesn't necessarily give us our answer. So here we'd say, all right, second paragraph is about the astronomer studying it. We can go back to this and answer it in no time at all. So one last note on maps. You want a skeleton framework of the passage. It'll help you better reason where things are likely going to be found. Otherwise, there is so much lost time that happens when we're just researching aimlessly in the passage. All right, with that, keep those questions coming in. We got one last topic to take a look at. Let's dive into the science section. Now, the science section comes down to a single thing. I got a method here. We're going to read the passage, take notes, but you know what? There's one part that matters for the science section, and that is getting awesome at figure interpretation. That is the absolute key to the science section. Figuring out why and how the scientists set up the experiment, if there's any patterns, almost all the questions come from those. So if you're looking for something to do for the science section, get your hands on any ACT ever. Go through the science and understand, practice figuring out what those tables, what those graphs say. All right, so with that, you know what? Let's take a look at an example of that. We got a graph right here. I got to figure out how I'm going to use this for this question. Let's see. According to figure 1. And here's our figure. Let's make sure we got this down. Okay, so it says initial speed on the x-axis. That's great. Y-axis is total stopping distance. Make sure we got those units down. Okay, and this is method 1, and this is method 2. Okay, cool. And I would probably just add one more piece here. I would probably put like an M1 next to this one and an M2 next to this one, just so I didn't get those mixed up. Very easy to happen. Okay, so if they're asking where they're equal, you might notice, okay, they're equal here and they're equal here. So one mistake that we might make on testing, not really possible for this one because we don't have answer choices that would allow for it, is to find where they're equal and go to the wrong axis. So I could run over to the left here, right? I could run over the 100, but here, right, it's definitely in miles per hour, so there's no way we have to worry about 100 because it's not an answer choice. We're going to drop straight down to this bill. Now, the reason why we have such a straightforward question here is an example of sometimes you just have an insane amount of text. You have so much text coming before. And you can spend all this time reading it and you might miss questions like these on the back end. So you have to make sure you get past that and you get right to your visual. Now I'm going to give you another visual here. Here's a table. All right, let's see what it's asking. Ask for an initial speed of 25 miles compared to ask for an initial speed of 55 miles per hour is approximate. Here's what I want from everyone. In the chat, tell me, am I comparing 25 to 55? Or am I comparing 55 to 25? Huh. Which one am I comparing here? 25 to 50 or 55 to 25? Because that's really what this question's all about. Us being able to get this down. What is the order of this ratio? What is the order of this comparison? Okay, we'll say S compared to that is this to this. So it's going to be our 25 to our 50. All right, so now let's take a look. Let's take a look. All right, which one is this? Oh, we'll go to S, right? Go to S on your table. Say, what is that? For 25 miles per hour, it's 29. And then for 55, it's 65. Boom. All right, so as I'm taking a look at my choices, of course, it's about 1/2 as big. As long as we have down that it's 25 to 55, we should be able to knock out this question in no time. And again, we have isolated these questions intentionally to remind you that even though there was all this text before both of these two questions we've seen here, the questions came entirely from the visuals. And that's what you're going to see time and again on the ACT science section. About 80% of the questions will come from the visuals in some shape or form. About 10% will come from the text, and another 10% or so will come from the reasoning. All right, and finally, let's take a peek at one last one. We have this giant visual here with a couple Roman numerals. Which of the following statements are consistent with the carbon cycle as presented in the diagram? So naturally, I'm going to take some time. I'm going to figure out. Arrow means, okay, it's traveling from one spot to another. All right. Let's start with Roman numeral 1. Both plant and animal respiration contribute CO2. All right, well, let's find plant and animal. All right, so plant respiration, CO2, sure. Animal respiration, oh, no, animal respiration, there we go, CO2, sure. All right, Roman numeral 1 works. I will take out choice B or Roman numeral 2. All right, next up, a non-plant eating animal does not participate. Do I know that? Is this consistent with the diagram? Do I know that? Is there something here that tells me that? Do I have non-plant eating animal here or here or here? I don't see it anywhere. All right, not that one. Could knock that out. All right. Next up, all CO2 is released in the air by respiration. And you guys, I'm so glad we got this as an opportunity. Be careful for the always, never, none, most even. Those are words that'll go too far, and it has to be just as categorically correct in order for that to be right. And it is not true here that all CO2 is released in the air by respiration, but rather we got this fermentation, we got everything else going on there. No way. Our correct answer here is choice A. All right. So what we just had here, everyone, is another visual, right? We started with a graph, then we had a table. Now we get this giant circular thing, right? This carbon cycle. This is what you're going to be doing in the ACT science section. So what you need to do between now and test day is practice with graphs, with tables, with figures, understanding them, figuring them out efficiently. You know, on this test, time is of the essence for sure. All right. So with that, I'm going to take a big step back. We just talked about approaches for the English, the math, the reading, and the science. As I said earlier, we're not going to do the writing, the essay tonight. It's optional. Not all schools require it. It does not go into your composite score. But if I could tell you one great thing to do, you can start by going to the ACT's webpage, act.org. Lots of great samples there. You can get a better feel for what it's going to look like for sure. Now, if I could tell you one thing to remember, it is a persuasive essay. It's going to be 40 minutes. you're going to take a side. And if you've done the SAT one, it's a lot different than that. It's not finding literary devices or anything. It's not about the how. You're choosing a side and you're given 3 options. And with that, I want to take about the last 10 minutes and talk about how to study. So I know virtually every person here wants to get a high score on the ACT, or otherwise you would not be spending your Valentine's Day, right? It's Valentine's Day. I don't know if anyone else had a good Valentine's Day. I had a pretty good Valentine's Day. I got to help coordinate some parties for my 2nd grader. And then I got to play Cupid for all the teachers in school. I got to hand out secret admirer gifts. And then I got to go sledding and snowboarding with my kids. So it was a pretty good day. And a snowball fight with them. I guess I kind of nailed them with some snowballs. Not the sweetest thing, but that's okay. But you all came here on Valentine's Day because you want a higher score. So what I want to just talk for a moment about is how to go about doing it. Now, if you are a person that says, hey, I think I'm pretty close, I'm not too far away, well, definitely let us continue to help you. We have lots of free resources. If you've not taken a practice test yet with us, definitely sign up to do that. We have a lot more opportunities for free practice tests. In addition to those, we have lots of other things we're going to be doing. So definitely keep checking our website, captest.com, click on ACT. You can go to free events from there and you can see all the things we're going to be doing. And you'll probably find me doing a number of those as well. I don't know if that's a good or bad. That's okay if it's bad. Now, what else you need to do is to take your time, right? Don't be in a hurry, right? Like I talked about someone who even studied after he graduated. I know we all want to be done, but it is worth it to put the time into it if you have a certain goal school in mind. So take this seriously, almost take it like it's a whole other class that you're doing as well. So as I said, set aside a few months. Do not cram for this, right? We did a preview. We didn't cover everything. We didn't cover the hardest things. We talked about an approach tonight. How to start putting ourselves on the path to figuring out what we need to invest our time in. Also, use realistic practice materials. If you go to act.org, there's a free practice test you'll find there that's different than our free practice test we offer. Figure out what are the areas you need to work on. Prioritize the areas, right? Like we talked about geometry. Do you know all these formulas? Do you know the ellipse formula, for example? If you don't, get it down. Make yourself some flashcards. Take this time to do so. You're putting into your long-term memory so you are not cramming. And figure out what areas of the test that you have the most area to improve on. In particular, if it's reading, try out some different things. Like what I was talking about, you don't want to try that out the night before the test, annotating for the first time. No, you want to try it out now. Try it out 2 months before. See what works, keep practicing, adjust it as it goes. That's what you need to do. So your ultimate goal is to take the ACT. Maybe once, maybe twice, and then nail it. All right, that's it. That's it. So put the time in now. So ultimately be paying off and you'll be ready on test. Now, as I said, we have a lot of free resources available. Definitely take advantage of those. If you are a person who is really looking for a competitive score, or for example, you've hit like a plateau. Like so many of my students, that's probably like the most common student I've heard from. Their parent tells them, I think you can get a 30. Your brother got a 30. Your cousin got a 29 without studying. Why are you getting a 25? And at that point, maybe you've tried a lot and you're like, I need some other things. Well, that's something I think our single best fit for any student is you've tried it and you're like, I need some more help. Or you're a person who has limited time. So you're like, all right, of the time I have, I need to be getting this down right away. I need to be just taught it. You tell me what to do. I'm going to try it out and I'm going to get better. So this is something that we offer. So we offer full classes. And in addition to the classes, we offer really personalized things called our ACT channel. So they're offered multiple times a week, half hour, hour at a time. You pick the lessons that you like best, and you'll find me on there quite a bit. Once again, that could be a good or a bad thing. And as you're thinking like, all right, what works for me. Just want to talk just a little bit about some of our options here. So we have a prep class that involves actual sessions, access to our channel I just talked about, 8 full practice tests, online resources, the whole shebang. Or if you're a person who needs a little bit of tutoring with that, you'll see an option here for that. And then I want to just talk a little bit about what we're offering for coming here tonight. So as you'll notice here, our live online class is typically $8.99 for coming tonight. 27.2% off. I think I did the math. Someone could probably correct me on that. For $6.49. So our live online classes is similar to this experience we've had tonight. Just a little bit different. We'll meet in an Adobe room. Teacher be on camera just like me. Probably cracking some bad dad jokes once in a while. Try and do our best to keep it interesting and engaging for our 3-hour sessions together. Trying to get us that endurance down for test day. We'll learn every single topic. Today was a preview of that, but we'll learn everything. We'll learn trade, we'll learn geometry, we'll learn the toughest reading, the toughest science things you'll see. We're going to cover the gamut of that. And if you're a person who needs like the toughest questions, we have our channel sessions on the toughest questions. So we definitely have things, no matter where you're at in your prep, there's some options, there's some opportunities for you to get some great practice in. And in addition to that, you get the painful experience of having me lead the way. And then we got great off-camera help, like you guys have seen tonight. I know you guys have seen, we got great answers coming in, expert teachers in their own as well. So thank you all for coming. If you do have any other questions about this, feel free to get them in. One thing I just want to leave us with is the fact that this is virtually a no-lose proposition. If you are a person who's like, well, Greg, does this work? I know I thought it once upon a time. I was like, does this work? Well, here's what Kaplan does. If your score does not go up, either from like your most recent ACT that you've taken or your highest ACT, or your first Kaplan test that you take with us, if your score does not go up from that, money back. And even if you feel you're not ready, you can come take it again with us. I have lots of students who come take the regular class, then come back at it for more practice tests, more of the online resources, more of the channel sessions. Students who they know they're going to take 3 or 4 or 5 months to prep. They do it with us. They do it with someone who's expert leading the way the whole time. Mixing up the strategies as we go. Seeing what's the best fit for you. So again, you can come back and study for more, or you get your money back. Regardless, either your score has gone up or you get your money back. So with that, I just want to make sure I'm saying thank you to all of you for coming. If you are interested at all, you're saying, well, Greg, maybe this sounds like a pretty decent thing. Maybe I'm thinking about this live online class. I'd like to ask some more questions. Well, definitely feel free. We're going to be putting in the link for the Ask a Teacher. It's a little thing you can reach out to and ask a Kaplan teacher a little bit more about what it offers. We're going to throw that in the chat. We're also going to throw in the link as well for this discount. So if you're interested in this discount, save 250 zip, but I'm going to have our team throw it in the chat just in case you're interested. If you have any questions, you can keep getting those questions in. So with that, I'm just going to end with just a couple more notes here. First off, my name has been Greg. Thank you all for joining, and thank you for following along and asking all these great questions. Thank you to my off-camera team, and thank to all of you who've been participating, and for the most part have been behaving. But at least hopefully, what we all are walking away with is the thought that there is a lot of work that goes into this task. English, getting that grammar down cold, because we got to be moving fast. And then taking it further to the comprehension questions. For math, do I have all these formulas refreshed? Am I going to have these like virtually instantly for test day? A student the other day, I just talked to her. She got her first 48 math questions, only 2 wrong. Last 12 got 1 right. Timing. She went back and did those last 12 after. She ordered her test after, got them all right. Timing. This is a girl who's amazing at math. She's already in, I think, Calc 2 or something in high school, and it's the timing. We got to get used to how the ACT asks these word questions. Get yourself realistic practice. I don't care where they come from. And then for the reading, we have to think about different ways that we can be more efficient. Try out different things, everyone. Try it out. Don't just stick with what you've done before if it's not working for you. And then for science, expose yourself to these visuals. Get ready by test day so nothing will surprise you. And with that, my name's been Greg. I'm just going to pause myself for a moment. I want to thank everyone for coming out. If you have any more questions, keep getting them in and we'll do our best to answer them, okay? All right. Thank you all for joining us. And once again, let me take us back to my happy Valentine's. Maybe not the best heart that's ever been drawn, but that's my happy Valentine's Day to all of you. With that, thank you all very much. My name has been Greg. Have a fantastic evening.